we say it all the time, community's at the center of all change. So that's been the biggest thing for me, is like how to just create space and potentially be that catalyst to the next innovation, the next change that could potentially come in healthcare.
Hello and welcome to another great edition of Beyond the Hype. And yeah, every episode I tell you is going to be great, but every episode I deliver. So sit with that, let that marinate, because today it's going to be no different. Listen, before we get started, I want to remind you to subscribe to Black Enterprise on the YouTube channel, especially if you're watching there right now. You could be watching on a number of platforms. If you like what you hear, subscribe, like, comment, engage. I'm likely going to be in the comments with you, sharing and providing additional resources, whatever. We want you to subscribe to the Black Enterprise YouTube channel and check out all the great series that we have on a weekly basis from me and my colleagues at Black Enterprise. But in the meantime, you guys know how passionate I am about health. Not just health in the general sense, the kind of popular sense of we want to eat better, we want to be active and fit. I'm into fitness, I'm into natural bodybuilding. But to me, it goes deeper than that, because we're talking about a serious need for multi-generational health as a form of multi-generational wealth. And you've all heard this saying, health is wealth, but I think we have to take that more seriously than ever before, because it does have a direct impact on earning power. It does have a direct impact on the economic resources of our community. It does have a direct impact on our capacity to build wealth. And then for this conversation, we're also going to talk about the importance of Black representation in all aspects of the healthcare industry. Underrepresentation and absence in many areas of the healthcare industry is a big part of why the disparities, the disadvantages, the negative outcomes that we tend to experience disproportionately in Black and brown communities take place. We don't really have a healthcare system that's always culturally competent and culturally sensitive. That impacts everything from pain management to infant mortality, maternal mortality. A lot of the disparities is not about the technology and the medicine, but about the people and how they interact with people of color. So listen, we couldn't have a better guest to have this conversation. I can now call him a friend. We've been around each other enough to call each other friends. Many of you might remember that he moderated the healthcare panel that for Black Men Excel last year when we were doing it in 2024 down in Aventura. Please welcome to the show, and I'm going to ask you to say your name for me one more time. I'm going to say it. I'm going to try it. Duclas Charles.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Got it.
Yeah.
Alfred, thank you so much.
Doctor of Pharmacy, and for the case of this conversation, the founder of Black Health Connect. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you so much, Alfred. I'm excited to be here and excited to have this conversation with you today.
I want to thank you on air for educating me about how to say your name, because you've never corrected me. And I'm sure because I'm sure you have a Haitian background.
Yes, sir. Haitian background.
You're probably used to Americans calling you Douglas and Duclas and Charles because we Americanize everything. But for me, I always say it's very important for me to pronounce people's names the way it was given to them. This is, to me, it's the ultimate form of respect. Thank you for being patient with me as you taught me how to pronounce your first and last names properly. But why don't we jump right in and first talk about your journey? How did you come to be who you are, doing what you do? Aside from founding Black Health Connect, your work as a doctor of pharmacy, what was that journey like? Was that something you thought you wanted to do when you were a little kid? Or was that something you got exposed to along the way? How did that happen?
It's a great question. One, thank you again for the introduction. And like you said, I'm Dr. Duclas Charles. I'm a pharmacist from Brooklyn, New York, and the founder of Black Health Connect. How did I get here in my journey? I think.
By the way, yes, I have a Brooklyn bias.
I mean, Brooklyn, New York City is where it's at, but Brooklyn for sure is where you want to be. But growing up in New York City, I think my parents came here from Haiti in the 80s. And just instilled in us, one, giving back and doing good for your community, and also just the power of education. So when I was growing up, going through high school, headed to college, it was always lawyer, doctor, engineer. How can you have a role that will allow you to have sustainability as a professional living on your own, but also be able for you to have a major or positive impact on the greater community. And I always loved chemistry. So I went to Brooklyn Tech for high school. I was a chemistry major, captain of the forensics team, was doing all of that stuff. And when it was time to pick colleges, got into Howard. And they had a 6-year doctorate program for pharmacy. My uncle was a pharmacist. So I knew I was like, all right, I like chemistry. I want to do healthcare. I don't know if I want to take the physician route and have to do, school, then residency, then fellowship. I was like, all right, this seems like a route that I can take that will allow me, one, to be an entrepreneur. I knew I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And pharmacy traditionally was a very entrepreneurial piece of the healthcare industry. If you look back to if you think about like Black Wall Street in Tulsa or different Black communities, an independent owned pharmacy was at a cornerstone of that community, probably, that was owned by the community, that was a business for the community, that served the community. My uncle actually is a pharmacist who owns his own pharmacy. So when I was applying to school, I was like, all right, I can do this. So this is like the route that I expected to go, and never knew it would take me down the path that is taking me. So I've done a little bit of everything in the pharmacy space. Community pharmacy, working at like your big chains. Worked at a hospital for a little bit. Did some time in a tech startup, and then most recently for the last 7 years been working primarily in the medical cannabis space. So New York is an interesting space and gave me a unique opportunity because it's one of the states that requires pharmacists to oversee that part of the industry and do all of the patient and provider education, which has been great. I've been able to do a lot of community education events, speak to people, educate communities, speak in the Capitol during caucus. I even had an article written in Mayo Clinic. So it's just a lot of opportunity, a lot of things that have grown, and then it also led me to the current work that I've been doing with Black Health Connect, just because of my overall love for bringing people together in marketing. So that was the other side of things for me as well. On campus at Howard University, always loved hosting events, bringing people together. Me and a few of my close friends, we still do things together, host things for homecoming, right? But and when I moved back to New York, I was doing a lot of that work as well, but it was separate of my professional career. It was, all right, I'm doing these things on the weekends or in the evenings, and then I'm going to work as a pharmacist throughout the week. And then one day I said to myself, like, how do I get to bring those two worlds together? How do I get to be the person bringing people together and get to be a pharmacist and talk about my work? So I decided to start creating spaces for Black professionals, but all healthcare professionals to come together and network and develop community in New York City. And it's grown a great deal since then.
So here's the thing that I love about what you do for a living, and you're talking about it being a very entrepreneurial and a Black traditional entrepreneurial area of the healthcare space. If you talk about the larger ecosystem, I tell people, a lot of people don't know about the deep connection between surgeons, barbers, and pharmacists. That little red and white and blue pole up there was once upon a time, whoever pulled your teeth also cut your hair.
Right.
Because that was all one thing. And so when you talk about, Black communities, other communities too, but Black communities, I tell you, there's a reason why pharmacists and barbers in particular, of course, not surgery anymore,
right,
you get them to pull your teeth or anything like that, are still anchors of most rural and urban communities, outside of the larger conglomeration of pharmacies that we've seen over the last 20 or 30 years. But you're right. It's like if you're going to be an entrepreneur, but to be in this space, there's a strong tradition of Black pharmacists and Black-owned pharmacies serving those local communities. So it's interesting to see that even in 2025, there's still a pathway for that.
It's definitely still a pathway. I think depending on the market you're in, it might be a bit difficult to grow, but there are a lot of people still doing amazing work. And it speaks to like our profession, right? Pharmacists are the most accessible healthcare professionals. You don't need to make an appointment to see your pharmacist, right? To get feedback on some symptoms you're feeling, or get answers about what medications you might be taking or supplements you're interested in. You could just walk into a pharmacy. So I think there's an importance for the role that we play, especially as community pharmacists, around what we can do to impact healthcare and health equity. I mean, we saw it during the pandemic, right?
Oh, yeah.
Pharmacies were doing all the COVID tests. Pharmacies were giving out the vaccines and make sure those were accessible. So we are at the front lines of things. I think sometimes people forget that we're there, or could forget that the access that they have to a healthcare professional without needing to make an appointment or wait in long lines, things of that nature. So definitely.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you talk about the pandemic and the COVID experience that we had as a world, and certainly as a nation in our communities. Um, Pharmacists became part of the front line of the effort to get people vaccinated, because they're already in the community. They all often already know the people that are coming through there. It's easier to go to your pharmacist and try to get a doctor's appointment if you get one at all. I mean, and now post COVID, if you want to say post the shutdown anyway, um, I just use myself as an example. So now I'm at the age where I'm getting, of course, whatever is a flu shot, pneumonia shot, because I'm 65 now. So they're like, no, you got to get a pneumonia shot, dude. We should have got you 5 years ago. You've been talking us, So there's certain shots that I'm getting now. And once upon a time, it was like, oh, I gotta, make sure I want to go back to my doctor. I get it done. They're like, no, where's your local pharmacy? Okay,
Right.
just roll over there and let them know what you need.
Appointment. They have a booth. They can administer the vaccine, and you
Right.
be on your way.
I'm
Exactly.
on my way to do grocery shopping, stopping. So it makes all kinds of sense, because pharmacists, again, are members of the community in a way that, unfortunately, we may touch on that later on. The idea of the house call. I mean, God, nobody remembers that anymore. You got to be over age 60 to remember house calls. But the kind of the local family healthcare provider, unless you're very, very wealthy, you ain't getting that.
Right.
So the closest thing you got to that is probably your pharmacist, your local pharmacist, your local pharmacy. Let me shift gears now to you're the founder of Black Health Connect, and that was how we first met. You was like, oh, you got this organization. You were talking about Black Men Excel, or maybe even Disruptor Summit before that. I don't know.
Health is wealth, I think, was the first thing I got a chance to connect.
Yeah, that's right. You knew my thing, my passion. And you told me about Black Health Connect and you starting it. So I really want to talk about what made you start Black Health Connect. Now, listen, we know that there are other Black professional organizations serving different aspects, networking and associations. On my mother's side of the family, that's not true. On my father's side of the family, most of the women are nurses. They're school nurses, they're visiting nurses, they're long-term, like they're some kind of nursing. And going back to my paternal grandmother, who was a nurse back in the day. So there's a association I know they deal with for Black nurses, and there's associations for Black doctors, and they exist for a good reason. They serve a purpose. But talk about what brought about Black Health Connect, and what the purpose and the mission of the organization was when you started it, and what you see it doing now, because it's come so far in a short period.
It's definitely come a great way, and I think when we first started, I had no idea it would set me down the path and set us down the path to build what we built. But Black Health Connect really started as a way for me to bring my two worlds together. So like I said, I used to live in two different worlds, like marketing and events and hosting things for social events. Really, my core target market was just Black professionals, whether it was lawyers, new grads from HBCUs moved to New York, things of that nature. But then I was also a pharmacist, and I didn't feel like I was able to be my full self in those rooms. So initially, it was selfish. It was just like, hey, I'm going to host a mixer, a networking event to bring Black healthcare professionals together. That way I could be the guy hosting the event and bringing people together, but also still get to talk about what I do as a pharmacist, get to network. And that first event was small. It was about 75 people in a room. I didn't think much of it. I was like, all right, this is small. People don't really like this. I won't do this again. But I got so much positive feedback, right, about all right, hey, I met somebody from my job I didn't even know worked in the same hospital as me, or I was applying for a job at this hospital. I met somebody that worked there, or I met somebody in pharma and I'm trying to transition into pharma. And it made me really recognize that the experience I had at Howard being at HBCU was a very unique one, right? Howard University produces I think some of the most black doctors in the country. That fact may have changed. I may be a little bit wrong, but I love my HU. But we have a dental school, a medical school, a pharmacy program, a nursing program, a PA program, right? Physical therapy program. So MBA, law. So just naturally as I progressed through my career at Howard and getting my degree, I also built this very strong network of professionals that have similar backgrounds, culturally significant similarities, right? Come from different places, different socioeconomic backgrounds, different places in the country, but we all lived that same black experience, right? And then when we went out into the world, we still had those connections. I remember my first pharmacy job working overnight. I was able to call somebody who worked for the same chain as I did, who was also working nights, maybe like an hour away in another city, and go over things, ask questions, things of that nature. But I got that because we both went to Howard University for pharmacy school. And my friends who may have gone to different institutions, went to PWI, stayed in New York, they felt the same isolation and they recognized that same lack of diversity that most of us don't really take notice of until we get into the workforce, right? So they might have been the only person in med school that looked like them, or there might have been one of 5 black students in the pharmacy program at the school they were in, and it just speaks to the lack of diversity that it exists in healthcare. So with that, I was like, all right, maybe we start doing it quarterly. So we started doing it quarterly in New York, and it grew from that 75-person event. By the end of the first year, we had 500 people at our last event of the year. And then in 2019, we kept doing it consistently. And by the end of 2019, we had about 700 people coming out, from new grads all the way up to executives at different hospital systems, different pharmaceutical companies. And it was truly becoming an intergenerational, interdisciplinary network, right? All in the city. And so in 2020, I was like, all right, well, I already host events all over the country with my business partners. Maybe we should try traveling with this. Let's see, because these different communities need it. So we did DC, we did New York, and the pandemic happened, right? Which led us to do virtual programming. And when we started doing virtual programming, people were logging on from cities I had never even been to, whether it was professionally or via my business. So that's when I really knew that this was necessary. And since then, we've been to 24 cities throughout the United States. We've grown a community of a little bit over 30,000. And then we're also in 4 countries, 3 continents. So we're here in the U.S. We have a community in Nairobi, Kenya, a community in Accra, Ghana, and we also have a community in London in the UK. So really trying to bridge and bring together the entire diaspora when it comes to healthcare and create lines of communication, have people be able to have access to one another for personal growth, professional growth. And in the grand scheme of things, how do we create digital and physical hubs that foster interdisciplinary, an intergenerational network for aspiring practicing healthcare professionals, which all have the common goal of career advancement, advocating for increased diversity in healthcare, and improving overall health equity, right? A lot of us are leaders in healthcare, but we may not have the resources, may not have the contacts. Or we have people who lead hospitals, people who lead large corporations, people who have their own businesses. I think all of us having a collective community to build and exchange ideas will allow to foster growth for all of us professionally, but also allow us to have a bigger impact on the patients that we serve, especially the patients that look like us. So that's been why we've kept going. And since we've launched again those 24 cities, but also started our first conference in DC, where we bring people together from all over the country. So our national network comes into DC, Black Health Con, or we're now calling it BHC Con, Bridging Healthcare Communities. But we come into DC every summer and people network with folks from California to Texas to New York to Florida and the DMV, just coming together, learning about the different careers and pathways in healthcare, and then also learning from the different stakeholders. I think that was the other thing to your question around there are different professional organizations for every profession, and that's very true. So I'm a member of the National Pharmaceutical Association, so one of the very early on organizations for pharmacists, right? We have the National Medical Association, National Dental Association. There's organizations like Young Black Pharma, bringing together pharma execs, National Association of Black Physical Therapists. There's all of these networks for professionals within their profession, but there wasn't really a space that brought everybody together.
Right,
And
right.
care doesn't operate in silos. It's a collective clinical team. It's a collective administrative team. Business, all of it comes together. So this was a space where you could find the folks on the policy side of healthcare, lobbyists in healthcare, clinicians in healthcare, people who invest in healthcare businesses, people who are healthcare entrepreneurs, all in one space, building community. I think that's where there's a lot of power in that. And it's what's been pushing me to keep going and just bridging these different networks and bridging these different healthcare communities together.
You hit on a couple of points that I want to kind of dig a little bit into. First of all, your point about the powerful network of HBCUs, Howard in particular, um, and obviously Howard, Xavier, we can name a couple other schools that produce the lion's share of Black healthcare professionals. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes 70, 80%. You would think in 2025, this far after the integration of the civil rights movement and all of that, it would be, but it's not. It's still, we rely on HBCUs to produce most of you, and Howard in particular. But the other thing you said about you experiencing at HBCUs what people who went to PWIs often never experienced. I went to PWI, I went to Rutgers, which, by the way, just because I'm still digesting it, we just named our second Black president in a row.
Oh, wow.
University.
Congratulations.
I didn't see that coming, but okay, that's enough in the back of my head. But my point is, I'm a co-founder of the predecessor organization of what is now the Rutgers African American Alumni Alliance, simply because I came out of school like all my Spelmanite and Howard and Morehouse friends are like, yeah, I got this job reference, I got this, this reference for my PhD program, and I'm like, I barely, other than the ones I actually the Black people went to school with, we didn't really have established networks of people to be able to reach out to. And the truth is, the only real advantage, whether you're talking about a Harvard or a Howard or a Yale or a Spelman, is that it's your power as an alum that makes the degree worth it. It's what you can accomplish as an alum in your network of other people that went through that same experience. And if you're Black and went to a PWI, too often you don't leave with that unless there's some intentional organization. And it impacts everything from job opportunities to higher, graduate education opportunities to salary. I mean, Howard and Spelman and all y'all, Hampton, it's like y'all little mafias, man. Y'all be getting it done.
It's definitely a strong community, and then we all recognize, we make jokes amongst each other, but we still all support each other for sure. I mean, a lot of my favorite mentors, like even in healthcare, like FAMU's has a strong pharmacy program. My mentor went to FAMU. Like the current president of the National Pharmaceutical Association right now is a FAMU graduate, right? So Morehouse has that medical college. Meharry, another major healthcare program. So just definitely a lot of impact that comes from that, and the ability to, I think, the education that we got to be tailored a bit more to understanding and being more culturally competent to what we are going to face as professionals in the workforce, but also the responsibility that we have as professionals in the workforce to take care of the patients from our community in a major way, right? So I think the biggest gaps we have when we talk about health equity and health outcomes, cultural competency and culturally congruent care has a major impact on it, right? The people that especially with communities that may have a distrust of the healthcare system, when they see somebody that looks like them, when it might allow them to release a layer of stress and just open up a bit more and not feel like they're being judged or feel like they're going to be understood. And even the cultural differences, the nuances. I mean, myself as a pharmacist, when I was working in community pharmacy, having a Haitian patient come up that only spoke Creole, and I was able to be there and translate and understand what was going on and help that process be easier in comparison to if you were talking to somebody that had the language barrier would be there, right, or something like that. So I think it's important for more of us to be in this space, more of us to be advocates in this space, and not and even beyond clinical roles too. I think that's the big thing for us with Black Health Connect. We have two networks that we're building. We have the Executive Roundtable, just trying to bring together more of the leaders and executive leaders within healthcare, but also our founders circle to bring again a lot of the entrepreneurs. One, I think a lot of the solutions in healthcare that are needed are going to come from folks like us within the community building businesses, building solutions around it. So we need to understand that identify those and provide them as many resources as possible, but then also leadership in healthcare and like healthcare administrators have so much impact on hospital policy, right? Or how a company is going to go about certain things, and having more of us as leaders with a seat at the table, giving diverse thought, right? Giving a different perspective on how something should be done can make a major shift in overall health outcomes. So we're super passionate about it.
I want to jump on you said it just now, you said it a little earlier. Yeah, we got the different professional associations serving Black professionals in different sectors. Where you're talking about Black Health Connect being multi-generational, interdisciplinary, and both vertically and horizontally integrated, meaning you're talking about everybody from the physician in a given neighborhood to the hospital administrator that would be running a major hospital system. And here's why I think that's important. And I got to talk about somebody I talk about some kind of regularly on this show. One of my mentees is Dr. Dorothy Jean Tillman, who is well known for getting her integrated behavioral health degree from Arizona State University at the age of 17. And I've known her since she earned her master's degree at age 14. And she talked about the reason why she wanted to pursue integrated behavioral health. And it's something that's also happening in the fitness space, and I'm really big into fitness. We are finally recognizing, we're just on the edge of recognizing, that brain health and mental health and physical health and emotional health are not separate things in separate rooms, that they're all part of the same system. And if we don't approach health solutions in an integrated fashion where we're sharing, like you said, it's interdisciplinary. Like we know now that being muscle and being fit has a positive impact on emotional health, that there's a direct correlation to depression and a sedentary life. These aren't separate boxes, And so to me, not only does it make sense from a professional standpoint to have an interdisciplinary organization like Black Health Connect, but it makes sense from the standpoint of most of the healthcare solutions that we're going to have to solve as human beings are going to be interdisciplinary. Like, there's no mental health without brain health. Dr. Philip Dion, who you may have met at Black Men Excel, I think you were on the same panel. He will argue there's no physical health without brain health. And so to me, it just makes so much sense. That doesn't mean the kind of siloed organizations aren't necessary, because there are certain things that are unique to being a pharmacist that doesn't apply to being, say, a psychiatrist. But we can't really address the larger issues of healthcare in America, and certainly among Black people, if there's not a certain degree of intentional interdisciplinary approaches to how you guys interact.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that mindset as a pharmacist, I think, was natural to us, like, because we kind of sit at the center of health. And I don't want to say at the center.
But you see it all. It all comes.
See it all. Right? We're dealing with the insurance companies. We're dealing with the patients. We're dealing with the providers. We're dealing with the pharmaceutical company, right? As pharmaceutical companies and new data and new medications coming out. So like you see that innately how the entire ecosystem is interconnected. And it's on so many levels. Like we're working on a project with the NDA right now and around oral health, but building like a health equity coalition. And you think about your oral health. If your teeth aren't healthy, it could lead to cardiovascular issues, right? And then that could lead to other things. So everything is interconnected, and I think as healthcare becomes more progressive in the thought of thinking about it from an interconnected way, you're going to see more intentional collaboration like this. But everything you said, I totally agree with, for sure.
So talk to me about your upcoming conference. It's in DC again, right?
Yeah, so BHC Con, it's
Yeah.
in Washington, D.C. It's
Yeah.
June 26th through the 30th. 4 days of networking opportunities, 2 days of panel discussions, 2 days, two keynotes, a keynote each day, panel discussions, workshops, community conversations. So we wanted to be very intentional around how do we create spaces for people to learn, but also to build community. So smaller, intimate spaces that lead to conversation, or group having conversations that require everybody's input, but still will allow people to leave with new skill set, new knowledge, or just a new perspective of how they want to go about things. And we also do something called Black Health Connect 40 Under 40, where we highlight 40 amazing individuals doing great work, whether it's policy, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether they're clinicians, whether they're working in patient advocacy. So we have a gala where they're honored called the Black Health Ball, which is held by our foundation, the Black Health Connect Foundation. And this year's gala is actually going to be helping us to fundraise for our new initiative, which is licensing scholarships. So our goal this year is to give 30 micro grants to new grads to help them pay for their exams, which could be very expensive. So the gala is going to be a fundraiser for that. But it's also going to be a fundraiser for the other impact work and philanthropy work that we do, which is our health fair. So on Sunday, we're actually doing a community health fair in Washington, D.C. On the fourth day of the conference. So you have the opportunity to volunteer and provide services or just resources and support to the local D.C. community. And then we have another networking opportunity on Sunday evening. And then we do something, we're doing our Founders Circle networking event that evening as well. So a lot of opportunities to network, but also a lot of opportunities to learn, meet new people, find business partners, find mentors, find mentees. I think it's a great overall experience. And it's in our third year. So our first year we had a little bit over 260 people attend from 26 different states. Last year we had a little bit over 500 people attend from 36 different states. So our goal is to get to that 600-700 number and really create this strong density of folks. And I think right now with everything going on, right, we need these spaces, right? We need these spaces that are created and curated by our communities, that aren't dictated by where you work or who you work for, things of that nature. Just how do we have safe spaces to come together to learn, find new ways to continue doing the work you're doing. Maybe your job opportunity isn't there anymore. Maybe the government route isn't a route you can take anymore. What have you? This is a way to find that and find it amongst community. Even this year's theme is community now more than ever, because honestly, that's the major thing. We say it all the time. Community is at the center of all change. So that's been the biggest thing for me, is like how to just create space and potentially be that catalyst to the next innovation, the next change that could potentially come in healthcare. But at least becoming the convener, it can lead to a lot of impact, in my opinion. So super excited for this year's conference, and hope to see some folks from Black Enterprise there as well.
So let me tell you how small the world is, and stick a pin in that. I hear you, bro. I heard that. Let me tell you how small the world is. He had no idea you were coming on the show. But one of your 40 under 40 this year is a brother named Dr. Michael Conward out of Miami. He's the CTO of Mylua Health.
Yep.
And co-founder. He is the grandson of one of my late mentors, who was my first boss when I got hired for my first newspaper job in Brooklyn.
Oh, wow.
His father is Mike Conward, and of course, Dr. Michael Conward. And so he literally just posted on Facebook, like over the weekend, how proud he was of, he showed the little 40 under 40, social flyer of his son. And I was like, he does not know about the number. But just to show you the breadth of your work, you start out with 75 people in the room and you figure, nobody really wants this. And now, in a very short period of time, you're just reaching and connecting and influencing so many people. So you done made one dad proud, because he was like, my son is being honored by Black Health Connect in the 40 under 40.
It's amazing. I think growing up, I used to get my mom to buy me Black Enterprise magazines all the time and reading it. I think you see a lot of these lists, right, honoring different people in different areas. And I feel like healthcare is such an impact on the world. but healthcare wasn't given the same cool treatment, media treatment, right? In the past. So it was like creating this space, creating this platform to help people get more awareness for the work that they're doing, whether it's research, whether it's starting a business, even just a professor at a school. I think there's so many of us doing great work. And I mean, just getting into the field and being able to be a professional in the field is an accolade in itself. But on top of that, those of us who are leading and making these different changes need to be seen and need to be on a stage of some sort. So we felt like it was necessary to do. And we're going to keep doing it for as long as we can. So just super excited about that. And now I have something else to talk to Dr. Mike about when I see him at the gala.
No doubt. Your point, like you said, I mean, Black Enterprise over the 55 years, we're celebrating our 55th anniversary in August. Especially when we were a magazine, we did a lot of lists. But not only, like you said, let's say the healthcare profession wasn't necessarily one of those areas that we kind of, not we, Black Enterprise, but we in general, glamorized in that way. But even when we did, and this goes back to our earlier conversation about appreciating the interdisciplinary nature of healthcare, we did our list of top Black doctors. So of course, who do we focus on? Brain surgeons, and because we're thinking of the guy with the scalpel, and we're not thinking about pharmacists, we're not thinking about healthcare administrators, we're not thinking about all these other people who make the system work, because we're like focusing on the quote unquote the glam part. And so I agree. Now I think there's a deeper appreciation for, one, the healthcare system, as glamorous as we think surgeons are, and I appreciate them because I've had major surgeries. It's not just that. And two, we have younger people, young professionals who are really transforming the industry. And now's the time to not only showcase them, but help them to progress in their careers in a meaningful way. Before I forget, I do want to also underscore, you mentioned Black MedExcel, Black Health Connect is coming up. We're definitely getting you back at Black MedExcel this year. But one of those two things have in common, and you touched on it. A big part of our mission for both of us is bringing people together so they can be resources to one another. Our late founder, Mr. Graves, used to tell us when I first came to Black Enterprise that every Black person, especially in underrepresented industries, had a piece of a puzzle that somebody else needed, but they didn't know them. That they were in another company, another country, another state, another city, and they're isolated thinking, I got this puzzle piece, but I don't know anybody else who needs this piece. And by the way, there's a piece that I need, and I don't know them. And I remember we did our first list of top Blacks in corporate America. To show you how long ago that was, it was 1988. It was my second year at the company. Ken Chenault, who's now retired as the chairperson of American Express, he was the youngest person on that list back then.
Wow.
How long ago? But the point was, we brought those 25 guys, and it was only men at that time, there was no women on that first list, together in one place, and they didn't even know each other existed. They were like, I thought I was the only one. I was the only one in this space. And I think sometimes we take for granted the power of a Black Health Connect Con, the power of Black MedExcel, the power of the Women of Power Summit, our conference for Black women in corporate America. Yes, some of us are in communities where there's a group of us, but a lot of us are still working in very isolated spaces. And that isolation hampers your career advancement. It often makes you very vulnerable in terms of your ability to progress toward your career goals. So I think, again, the work that you're doing is really, really, really important. In the time we have left, before we run out of time, tell people where they need to go, what website to register for BHC Con, as well as, to learn more about Black Health Connect overall, and what social media handles or accounts you would want people to connect with, whether to follow up with you or follow up with the organization.
No, yeah, definitely. Thank you. So Black Health Connect, we are Black Health Connect on all social media platforms. So please definitely check that out. And then if you want to learn more, go to blackhealthconnect.com. Or if you want to come to the conference, BHC Con, CON.com. So BHCCON.com is our conference website where you can get more information about the conference and also learn about how you can support. You could be a vendor. We have an expo, business expo. So if you have a healthcare business, if you want to hire healthcare professionals, if you want to market to healthcare professionals, you could join us there at the conference, or you could email us at partnerships@blackhealthconnect.com. And somebody will be right with you in terms of how we can potentially be a partner and a supporter. Our community is a strong one. So we were able to leverage and support other businesses and healthcare businesses within the community with our community. So always want to be a supporter and a partner.
Listen, Duclas, thank you so much, man, for joining us. I know we're going to be talking again soon. I know we're going to see each other again soon, thankfully. But I really appreciate you taking the time. Okay, y'all, we're going to be upfront with y'all. My man's having some improvements done on his house. So we ain't trying to front on you, which is another reason I'm so glad you took the time to do this. I know you got a lot going on. And so just thank you for being a guest on Beyond the Hype. Thank you for being a friend of Black Enterprise. Thank you for being a champion of the Black Men Excel Summit. And we're obviously going to continue to do some great things together. So thanks, brother, for joining us.
No, Alfred, thank you so much for having me. I never thought.
Just keep it going, man. That's all right.
I never thought I'd be on a platform like this. Like I said, I used to read this magazine growing up. And so to be able to connect with you, be able to be a part of Black Men Excel, to even be on this platform right now, it means a great deal. And excited to be on the show today. So again, thank you again. Look forward to chatting with you soon.
We're going to be doing bigger and better things to come, man. We're just getting started.
Yes, sir. All right.
Yeah. So listen, guys, another great edition of Beyond the Hype. I promised, I delivered. Don't forget to check out Beyond the Hype at blackenterprise.com, the dedicated Beyond the Hype landing page. Go to the Black Enterprise YouTube channel. Subscribe to Black Enterprise on YouTube, and you can check out this edition of Beyond the Hype, past episodes, as well as editions of our other video interview series like Sisters Inc. with Elisa Gums, The New Norm with Selena Hill. We got a lot of great stuff every week, presenting some amazing achievers. You know how we do at Black Enterprise. That's what we do. We elevate excellence. So listen, I'm Alfred Edmund Jr., Senior VP, Executive Editor at Black Enterprise. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time. Check out the video channel on blackenterprise.com to find Beyond the Hype and other shows from Black Enterprise editors, writers, and experts. Be sure to subscribe to Beyond the Hype on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SoundCloud. And if you like the show us love by leaving a 5-star review and spreading the word. This is Alfred Edmund Jr. with Beyond the Hype for Black Enterprise. Thank you for listening.